It's time for the Ward Scott Files, hosted by John Martin. Join the Salty Dog and his captain, Ted Yoho. Search for the Ward Scott Files on Facebook, Vimeo, and over 30 audio platforms, including Apple and Spotify. Now here's your host, the Salty Dog, John Martin.
Well, welcome everybody to our Political Pirate podcast featuring yours truly, the old salty dog and the captain of our pirate ship, Mr. Ted Yoho. Good morning, Ted.
Ho, ho, ho. Happy Friday to you.
Ho, where's your bottle of rum?
I got weaned off of that early in life.
I hear you, man. We're gonna kind of get right into it. Before we do, I'll just mention this, that the president is heading out to Texas today to meet with people about the floods in Texas, and we're certainly praying for them and hoping he can bring them and reinvigorate their spirit and all of that out there. So we still have the people in Texas in our prayers, and I'm sure the nation does as well.
We sure do. And, just the presence of him being there, I mean, that's going to bring comfort. FEMA's there, HHS is there, all these agencies are there, the military, the Coast Guard. All these people are there, and you contrast that to East Palestine, Ohio, with that train wreck, that terrible train wreck that happened out there. Biden never showed up. Trump showed up.
And he was there too. President Trump was there too.
Yep, he sure was. So we've got a president that cares for people, and he's showing that. He's not out there doing this for a campaign rally. This is what do you need? Let's get it done. As he did in California with the fires, he did the same thing.
Yeah, Donald Trump is.
Go ahead.
One thing about President Trump, he's a president for everyone. I mean, he certainly has his own views, his own opinions, and that type of thing. But I've never seen him shun someone based on a political belief. I've never witnessed that myself.
He hasn't. Other than maybe Mondani. We'll find out how that pans out. It's interesting. I'm watching a documentary on Theodore Roosevelt. And the similarities between him and Trump, 100 and some years later, are uncanny. It's just, I'd highly recommend it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're going to start today, and I'll just tell people right out the gate, our overall theme today really is to bring your attention to you what the modern day Democratic Party is, because it is no longer the party of JFK. It's not. There's just simply not that party anymore. Heck, it's not even the party of Herbert Hoover. I mean, and people, it's not even the party of George McGovern, for God's sakes, I mean, these people have moved to the left of George McGovern.
John Kennedy couldn't get elected today. Bill Clinton couldn't get elected today.
No doubt. I used to tell people my dad couldn't get elected today.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Ken Martin, who's the DNC chair later on. But there's a point I want to let people or listen to if he says it in this soundbite, that they're trying to have the big tent in the Democrat Party, the conservative Democrats, the moderate ones, the liberals, the progressives, the socialists. I mean, he goes on there and says that, and I don't think he understands what he's saying.
Absolutely. The first example we're going to give, because Democrats, as you pointed out, Ted, in an email to me, Democrats have a meltdown all over the country. They're literally melting down.
They really do.
And we're going to play a quick example. Wes Moore. Now, Wes Moore, let me set this up, is the current governor, Democratic governor of the great state of Maryland. He's not the Maryland man. That's someone else. But Wes Moore is a very articulate fella. Obviously got a lot on the ball, and by a lot of accounts, he's a halfway decent governor, and he's touted as being a prime candidate potentially for president in the next cycle. But he's kind of going off the rail too, because you'll see in this video, and we'll talk about it, that he is parroting the same basic talking points and insanity that the rest of the Democrats are. So let's check this out. Ted, you pulled this up, so we're going to play it right now, and we'll come back and talk about it. Here is Wes Moore in his own words.
In Montgomery County, and also with veterans in Carroll County, who now fear they could be part of the 100,000 Marylanders who could lose their health care. I've spoken with leaders of hospitals on the Eastern Shore and also other parts of rural Maryland who are receiving historic support from the state and from my administration, but are now seeing cuts in the range of $250 million from the federal government. And the hits just keep coming because the president is also cutting funding for the food assistance programs that over 270,000 Maryland children from Oakland to Ocean City rely on. So there is no state that can single-handedly absorb the impact when the federal government severs its relationship with the middle class and also can give the wealthiest a tax cut. But despite that, I have ordered every major state agency to review the bill and to come back to me this week on the impacts of this legislation.
And like he says there, Ted, the hits just keep coming. I mean, he's not satisfied with pushing grandma off the cliff like those commercials. He's literally saying that we're going to push everybody from 8 to 80 basically off of a cliff. What are your thoughts on what he had to say?
Well, it's the typical talking points that you hear every time the Democrats are out of power. John, you can go back 20, 30 years ago, and it's the same thing, pushing grandma off the cliff. They're throwing all these people off of health care. When I was on the floor arguing, and Jim McGovern out of Massachusetts was saying that the Republicans, there's 55 million people starving every day in America. And the Republicans want to take their food stamps away. And I'm like, and I got up there, and I probably shouldn't have done this. I was brand new. Now I says, 55 million people starving a day. I says, I'm starving 3 times a day. It's called breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And this Wes Moore, he is talking the same talking points. The point I want to get is they're talking the same talking points they have for the last 30 or 40 years. And you can tell he's running for the next position. And as you brought up, he may be a candidate to throw his hat in the ring for president. And he's emulating Obama. If you look at his mannerisms, the way he speaks, the pauses, and that's probably not a bad person to emulate if you want to be a socialist presidential candidate like Obama and divide this nation. But he says there's 260,000 people that are going to lose food stamps. Well, I did a search on that. There's 160,000 people in Maryland on the SNAP program. And keep in mind, the SNAP was supplemental nutrition assistance for people. And so this was a temporary program. It started off in a program called TANF, Temporary Assistance for Needy Infants and Families. And it was temporary. That was the name of it, temporary. But it's been there, since the Great Society under Lyndon Johnson. And this guy is just fear mongering, as they always do. The sky is going to fall. The earth is going to flood. And it's the typical stuff they say instead of focusing. And I got a problem with both parties because it's all these things that are out that are populist, and it's driven by the media and it's driven by the searches of people on the internet. They're not focusing on the major problems. It's our debt, it's China, it was immigration, and Trump's got that under control, energy, and education. So I'm going to turn it back to you.
Yeah, well, it kind of reminds me of something that kind of was an awakening to me a few years ago. There was this young gal, and she came through the drug treatment center that I was working at. And they were tearing down this housing project because it was literally falling apart, been there for 30, 40 years in Gainesville. And they happened to feature her on the news. I'll let her remain anonymous.
I remember that.
Yeah. And she said on the news that she didn't know where she was going to go. I felt sorry. But the thing that stuck out to me is she said her grandmother had lived in this project. Her mother had lived in it. And now she and her oldest daughter was living in it. So I'm thinking to myself, what it reminded me of is something that Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ, said about the civil rights. And I'm not going to say it the way he said because it was pretty foul. But he basically said that if they passed this second wave of the Civil Rights Act, which was what created the welfare state, people tend to forget that the first Civil Rights Act was truly a civil rights act, and it was backed by a lot of Republicans. But the second one that created the welfare state, he literally said, Ted, that they would keep, and he used the N word, that blacks would be locked up for the Democrats for the next 200 years. And when she was talking about that, it made me realize that he was right in the sense that he's imprisoning these people into a cycle where they are totally dependent on the government. And it's certainly not just black people. White, there's many, many white folks. In fact, the highest number are white. But it imprisons people into the welfare state and government dependence, which is exactly what Mamdani in New York is trying to do as well. So what are your thoughts on that aspect of the modern welfare state? And you're talking about losing all these benefits, but it really is a trap, isn't it?
The modern welfare state is the same as the old welfare state. That quote you said of Johnson, LBJ, it sparked a memory of mine. Dinesh D'Souza did a documentary, and I believe it was called Hillary's America. And it had LBJ in there, and he was on the plane, and he had the senators, and he says, come on, you guys, you need to support this because we'll have and he used the N-word, we'll have these blacks voting with us for the next 200 years. And if you remember, if you watch that documentary, there was a black steward bringing coffee on a silver platter, and he was right behind LBJ when he said that. And just look at the guy's body language. His shoulders just slumped, and they're indentured servants. This is what the modern welfare system is doing, building on the old welfare system. And again, we've talked about this. The Democrats want to give you they want to give people what you want to keep you where you're at. They're always indentured. You brought up that housing project in Gainesville. I remember right where it was off Williston Road there. And the grandmother was there, the mother was there, the daughter's there. There was a benefit. It's out in Clay County called J.B. Hall Christmas giveaway, and once a year, right before Christmas, they put on a big event, and it's for the needy people that come there. And I showed up as a candidate. Actually, I was in Congress, and we're filling baskets full of stuff for people, new bicycles, shoes. I mean, it was just top of the line stuff, brand new. And I'm talking to people, and I see them in line, and they're a younger couple or a single mom with their kids. And I says, hey, this is a pretty good deal. She goes, oh, yeah, I used to come here with my mom. I said, you did? She goes, oh, yeah, my grandma, before that. And it's the same thing. It's created a welfare state, and it becomes an entitlement. And if you mess with it, you're taken away. Instead of giving a hand up, we want to give you a hand up so we can give you, you can get out on your own, help you out, and get you out.
Well, and if you think about it, it also fits in, Ted, with as I say, the modern Democratic Party, because what have we heard from the Democrats about illegal immigration? We played a month or so ago a video from a member of the House of Representatives in Maine that literally said, who is going to wipe, and she used the A word, our behinds if we don't have these illegal immigrants here. So they're pigeonholing illegal immigrants as well. They want them for their very specific. It's not for them to pursue the American dream. It's to pursue waiting on them and casting their votes at the right time.
No, it is. And if you look at our favorite chameleon, Jasmine Crockett, you go back a month or two ago, we highlighted her when she was talking with Hood Talk. Said, what are you people going to do? Who do you think's going to pick our cotton? But
we're not doing it anymore.
That's right. And you go to this lady who was up in the Northeast, and I remember the tape. She's a white lady saying, if we get rid of these immigrants, who's going to wipe our rear ends? And, they want to control people, and they want people dependent on their programs because that keeps them in power. This is the thing that divide in America. You've got people that are libertarian minded. They believe in liberty and freedom. They believe in the value of self-work and self-sufficiency. And then you have that other class of people that you have leaders preying on them saying, it's not your fault. We'll help you out. And there are people that you need to help on. I think we've all been there. Like I said, I was on food stamps for 6 weeks when Carol and I got first married under the Carter debacle, when interest rates went up or inflation went to 22%. interest rates went up to 14. And yeah, I was happy that program was there, but we were only on it 6 weeks. It's not a lifestyle. It's temporary assistance.
Yeah, well, I remember this has been during Trump's first administration. The guy, I can't think of his name, but he created BET Network, Black Entertainment Network. And
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking.
yeah, he wasn't really a Trump supporter, but he was hearing so much garbage about welfare and dependence and all that, and how black people basically couldn't make it in America, that he actually came out and said that was all nonsense and that Trump was right. Like I say, this guy was not a Trump supporter, but he was talking about the American way and the American system and the American dream. And he said anybody could get it, that he was living proof about it. And, I've said this before, but if I say it, it bears repeating. One of the things that happened when that Andrew Yang was running for president, I had a young man tell me that was probably on his early 20s at the time, that if they had that universal income, $1,200 a month, I think he said, he literally told me he would never work again. And that all that combined just scares the heck out of me.
What a waste of the American dream potential. If you're going to be content with $1,200 a month, and I know some people are, and God bless you, but don't ever let somebody put a limit on you. The only limit that is put on anybody that matters is the limit you put on yourself. And if you go to Whoopi Goldberg, her quote saying, blacks have it worse in this country than the Iranian citizens do. I mean, you got people like that just, they're fear-mongering, they're pushing the race card constantly. And like you said, that founder of the BET, nobody's holding you back. And I had this discussion with Terry Sewell out of Selma, Alabama, and she was talking about how her mom and her picked cotton, and she's in her 50s. And I'm like, well, if you're picking cotton, as a kid, you're doing it because you guys wanted to, there's modern equipment. You weren't doing it for a living. And I challenged her, and she goes, you don't understand. We're held back in the black community. And again, she's a lawyer. She's in Congress. I said, Terry, I disagree with you. There was a time, but with the programs we have today, nobody's holding anybody back except you. If you look in the mirror, that's who's holding you back. With the opportunity and programs we have in this country, there's no excuse for anybody not to succeed to the level they want to if they take advantage of those programs.
Well, what's holding people back, Ted, really is, and it's the modern Democratic Party to a certain extent. We're talking about Wes Moore in Maryland.
You're absolutely right.
If you look at the statistics of education in the city of Baltimore, you just look at Baltimore and his home state. I saw this not too long ago, that in the public school system in Baltimore, across any kind of racial lines, not a single 8th grader through 12th grader was proficient in math and reading. Not one. Not 1% or what, not a single one. That to me is holding people back more than anything else.
Well, not only that, John, but think about that's our future workforce, inventors, and that's where we're going to be 15 to 20 years from now. And if you look at those scores, they have been precipitously dropping, and we can't continue as a nation leading the world with people that aren't educated. And that's why I say this is where both sides, they miss the mark because they get caught up in the political garbage that's out there, about Joe Biden's doctrine and all that. Yes, that stuff's important, but it's our debt, it's China, it's energy, it's our borders, it's education. Those are the things that they need to come together in Washington to fix, because that's the direction of this nation for the next 20, 30, 40 years. And if they're not doing that, and Trump's doing a great job, he's reforming the Department of Education, and we just need to keep the support there and make sure that he stays in office with a majority and gain more of a majority so that they can implement these plans, but more importantly, codify them into law so that they can't get changed by executive orders by the next administration.
Yeah, and we're getting ready to go to break for a commercial break. Before we do, I want to play a video that we played our last show on Monday, but I think you can't see this enough. I'm going to play a small snippet of it, and this is President Bill Clinton talking about people needing to go to work to get welfare to work. Very similar to what's in the quote big beautiful bill and all these people that are supposedly being cut that Westmore was talking about. Let's listen to Bill Clinton. We'll come back and talk about it for a couple minutes, then we'll go to break. Check it out.
When I ran for president 4 years ago, I pledged to end welfare as we know it. I have worked very hard for 4 years to do just that. Today, the Congress will vote on legislation that gives us a chance to live up to that promise. To transform a broken system that traps too many people in a cycle of dependence to one that emphasizes work and independence. To give people on welfare a chance to draw a paycheck, not a welfare check. It gives us a better chance to give those on welfare what we want for all families in America, the opportunity to succeed at home and at work. For those reasons, I will sign it into law. The legislation is, however, far from perfect. There are parts of it that are wrong, and I will address those parts in a moment. But on balance, this bill is a real step forward for our country, our values, and for people who are on welfare. For 15 years, I have worked on this problem as governor and as a president.
And there you have Bill Clinton. According to the modern Democratic Party, that guy right there who got elected to 2 terms could not win a primary, let alone actually get elected by the modern Democratic Party. At least that's my feeling, Ted.
I don't think he could. He's too conservative. When he passed that bill, again, that was Newt Gingrich's Congress. He vetoed it twice. The third time, he understood politics really well, so he embraced it. And then he went around saying, I had the largest reform to largest reform to welfare in the history. All right. And what he put in there, John, and a lot of people may not realize this, he put in work requirements. If you're an able-bodied adult, it's a phrase they call ABODs, between ages 18 and 65, if you're able to work but don't, you need to work 20 hours a week, volunteer 20 hours a week, or go to school at the taxpayer's expense 20 hours a week to get retrained for something that you can go to work for. Obama got rid of that, and I think it was 2011, and we could never get it back in. And it took somebody like a Trump to come in and say, this is BS. The big, beautiful bill is going to have that in there. And gnashing of teeth and Westmoreland out of Maryland, they're all telling you, oh, they're taking all this stuff away. And it's the same talking point garbage they say every time, especially when they're in the minority. And don't fall for it, people. It's just a talking tactic. And remember, the Affordable Care Act put everybody on insurance. So nobody does not have insurance in America, period.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break. If you'd like to become a sponsor of our show, check out the Contact Freddie tag that you'll see on our video and become a sponsor of our show. And not only that, if you please support our sponsors, like what we're doing and share what we're doing. Ted, we'll be right back.
That's right.
Although the owner of Lewis Oil Company maintains she is 29, Lewis Oil turns 60 years old in June. Chevron would like to recognize the North Florida second-generation family-owned business, celebrating its growth and staying power. Lewis Oil Company maintains significant on-hand supplies, strategically located fuel depots, a delivery fleet, on-site service, fuel card locks, and convenience stores. Lewis Oil Company understands its responsibility in the local economy by providing service and delivery on demand and in crisis. As a first responder for 18 Florida counties and the Southeast from Texas to Virginia, we are proud of this rare accomplishment. Lewis Oil delivers.
This is Ward Scott, and I want to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. The Ward Scott Files premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Meldon Law, the only official injury partner of the Florida Gators. The Ward Scott Files Gold sponsors are Lewis Oil Company, Shoot GTR, On the Spot Dry Cleaners, R&R Construction, and Style Cuts. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, www.wardscottfiles.com, and click on the Advertise Here banner on the right side of the page, or call my friend Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the Ward Scott Files. And remember, if you like the show, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. May God have mercy on your soul.
Or that very much surprises me that you've never been tased.
You can't handle the truth.
All these poop.
A warthog. He's going to come up the steps. Here he comes. Oh my goodness, and he's huge. Hello, boy. Wonder if we can pet him. Hi, boy.
Can we touch him? No, don't.
Help me! Help! Help!
And we're back. We hope you'll support our sponsors and become one of our sponsors. Well, Ted, we were talking, we went to break, about the modern Democratic Party and what Wes Moore said in that video we played at the top of the show. The hits keep coming. And this one here, we're going to play in just a second. Democratic National Chairman Ken Martin. Ken Martin, now this guy, no relation to me that I'm aware of. He was being asked on PBS about the communist mayor or communist candidate for mayor, Zoran Mamdani. Sound like something from a carnival to me. But I want you to hear the chair of the Democratic Party in his own words when this PBS, and I give her credit for asking him the question about anti-Semitism. Check this out, and we'll come back and talk about it.
The phrase globalize the intifada in a recent interview. Some of your Jewish colleagues have said that that could be very disturbing, potentially dangerous. Do you agree with that?
You know, there's no candidate in this party that I agree 100% of the time with, to be honest with you. There's things that I don't agree with Mamdani that he said. But at the end of the day, I always believe, as a Democratic Party chair in Minnesota for the last 14 years, and now the chair of the DNC, that you win through addition. You win by bringing people into your coalition. We have conservative Democrats, we have centrist Democrats, we have labor progressives like me, and we have this new brand of Democrat, which is the leftists. And we win by bringing people into that coalition. And at the end of the day, for me, that's the type of party we're going to lead. We are a big tent party. Yes, it leads to dissent and debate, and there's differences of opinions on a whole host of issues. But we should celebrate that as a party and recognize at the end of the day, we're better because of it.
That is the chair of the Democratic.
There you have the Democratic chairman, Ken Martin, saying when asked about globalizing the intifada, and people need to understand what that means is the annihilation of the Jewish race. It doesn't mean just doing away with Israel. It literally means the annihilation of Jews all over the world. It means carrying out what the Nazis wanted to do and finalizing the final project or whatever. And this is the chair, Ted, of the Democratic Party, and he says that we celebrate this. We welcome this into our party, and it makes our party better. That's what they said. I mean, unbelievable. You can't make this up, Ted.
No, you can. And I would challenge anybody that thinks it's just the Jewish people, the intifada is. It's any non-believer of the Muslim faith. So it may be a starting point. They can say it's just against the Jewish people, but it's not. I mean, it can't be if you're a true believer of Islam. And so that's a very dangerous thing. And like you said, he's making the tent bigger. Come on, come all, come anybody that'll come in to help us keep our agenda going. And their agenda, if you look at their agenda, they want to give you more stuff to keep you where you're at. They want to have open borders. They want to have government-run grocery stores. I mean, everything they do is a socialist ideology. And then you look at the people in the Republican side, or the people that don't support the Democratic platform. What are they fighting for? They're fighting for the constitutional principles. They're fighting for secure borders. They're fighting for, getting our education fixed instead of using race cards or demographics to say this side doesn't want you to achieve. In America, we want everybody to achieve. And that's where this attack on, they've all said Mandani and Sanders and AOC all said there shouldn't be billionaires. I'm on the other mindset, and I think you may agree with this, John, that if you're a billionaire, I want to know how you did it and what you do and how you do it, because I want to do what you did. And I think it's just more American to look at what we can do instead of saying, "Oh, poor is me. Look what I can't do."
Yeah, absolutely. I posted this on one of our Facebook pages, a meme. There's not one problem that you have today, and when I say you, I'm talking about any American. There's not one problem that you have today that was created by somebody else being a billionaire, period. There's plenty of billionaires that I don't necessarily agree with, George Soros probably being the number one, but there's nothing that personally affects my life that is caused by a billionaire. Now, I don't agree with them. They other than maybe promoting the Democratic Party. But, we're talking about New York and all. On this last fishing trip I went in this past week, there were about a dozen guys they've been on the boat before, and they're all from the city of New York. They're all retired. They all live here in Florida now, and they kind of form this little group. They go on fishing trips 2 or 3 times a year. They're like, one of them was a sanitation guy. They're all just hard work firemen, that kind of thing. And so I asked them, and about half of them are black and the other half are white. The point is they're all mixed, but they have 2 things in common. They were hard-working people, and they're all from the city of New York. And you know what they said, Ted, when I asked them about, they're all going to like the communists up there? They all said the same thing to me individually and collectively, and I'm not going to totally rip it. They said, F New York. I am never going back there. It's over for me. I got relatives up there. I feel for them, but I am never, ever going back, not even for a visit. And these people got plenty of money. They're hardworking people. It's sad, but I understand what they're coming from. And if they feel that way now, think what's going to happen. This Madani guy actually has his way.
No, I mean, it's a wake-up call for New York. And if they elect him, it's going to be that much more divide in the country. And there's going to be that much more of a wake-up of like, hey, we don't want this. And I was reading an article, what is the fallout if Madani becomes the mayor? In the article, just because of the politics today, up for the last 5 to 10 years, over 800,000 people have left the state of New York. That's almost 1 million people have left. And it's because of the taxes and the rules and regulations and the liberal progressives. And it's affecting the rural areas more than the urban, because the urban area are the ones that voted these people in, like your AOCs and Chuck Schumer, and keep them in there. And so what's going to happen when he gets in there, you're going to see a mass exodus. And they said they're going to go to the lower tax states and ones with less regulations, the Republican states. And it's a danger for us or Republican states that they come down and keep their politics. But like you said, these people that you were fishing with, all those things they had in common besides, and plus fishing, is they want less government in their life. The Mandanis, the progressives, the AOCs, the Sanders, they want more government. And it's like Reagan said, it's not that my friends, the Democrats, that they're wrong. It's just they don't believe in the right things or something.
They know so much that's not true. I
really butchered that. I apologize, Reagan.
It's all right. Well, we're going to let you shine again here, Ted, because I know this person I'm going to mention next has to be, short of Ocasio-Cortez, this might be your next favorite congresswoman that you served with, and that is none other than Debbie Wasserman Schultz from the great state of Florida. This is what she said about what Ken Martin said about this anti-Semitism and the big tent.
Right.
She's Jewish. She said to not be willing to condemn the term globalize the intifada, it just demonstrates, talking about Mamdani, his callous disregard for anti-Semitism and terrorist activity. This is about as hardcore leftist Democrat as you can get, and she is being critical of Ken Martin and Mamdani.
Sure.
But this is the modern day Democratic Party when you got people like Wasserman Schultz sounding like a moderate. I didn't think that was even possible.
It really isn't. And keep in mind, she was the chair of the DNC. Then she got thrown out of that. But it's showing that the Democrats are devouring themselves. And let's just give them more rope, give them more reason to do that, because they're destroying that party. And it went from being the party of your fathers and the Southern Democrats and you know, those kind of things that they believed in, to what they're going to today that is unrecognizable. And, you know, for Wasserman Schultz to come out and speak this strongly of that, that's a sign that they're just imploding upon themselves. And I just want to stand on the sideline and cheer them on. You're doing a great job.
I'm hoping it totally backfires on them. We'll see. But according to CNN, now this is CNN because I listen to things so you don't have to, part of my public service. Democratic Socialists in New York City, emboldened by Zohran Mamdani's mayoral primary win, are warning that they may go after 5 House incumbents in the New York area, including none other than Hakeem Jeffries, who is supposed to be, well, he's the minority leader in the House, so leading Democrat. They're talking about primarying them. And of course, Hakeem Jeffries basically said, bring it on. So we'll see. What are your thoughts about them primarying all these incumbent Democrats, including people like Jerry Nadler?
I think it's great. Well, number one, Jerry Nadler, he needed to go about 2 decades ago. But I think this is something, again, if they primary these people, and it's going to be the progressives, it's going to be the AOC, the Bernie Sanders, the Mamdanis. If they do that and they're successful, it just pushes that party further to the left and unelectable. And all these people on there, I know them, and they need to go. I just hope that when that happens and you're left with 2 choices, that you're going to see Republicans rise up, and you're going to have a choice between a socialist communist candidate or hold your nose and vote for the Republican, because they're looking to get the country or the state of New York back on track. And I think it's another sign of them devouring themselves. The minority or the progressive agenda, it may work in these big urban areas. It doesn't work in the heartland of America.
Yeah, well, people need to wake up. I know that, including New York. It's not too late, by the way, up there in New York to wake up.
We're trying to educate you. We're trying to educate,
motivate, and activate, right? I say this all the time, Ted.
Our work is never done, John.
Yeah. You know, if you want to stay in the Democratic Party, more power to you, but take that party back over. You know, we have like Elon Musk talking about forming another party, and it's really ridiculous because we already have the 2-party system. We have libertarians, we have green parties, we have the only thing that is successful. When I call successful, I mean a vibrant third party does is take power away from one other party or another. They don't actually elect and rule, so it's just disruptive. But I would tell Democrats, if you're going to stay in the Democratic Party, take that party back over.
They don't have a resounding message that people want to get behind. You know, you get these fractured groups, and they brought that upon themselves because it was just, you know, white versus black, and then it was minority versus majority. Now it was BIPOC people, indigenous people, Black, indigenous, people of color, I think is what BIPOC stands for. It's a phrase they came up with. And so they've got all these splintered groups, and you can't rule by consensus with that many groups. You've got to have a coalescing message that people will get behind, and they just don't have it. And You know, you brought up Elon Musk wanting to start another party, and I know a lot of people, oh yeah, let's do that. And of course, Theodore Roosevelt did that with the Bull Moose Party, and it was a disaster. I think we need to get rid of parties, because parties, it's one side against the other. We need to just come together as Americans and say, let's do this for America, you know, and focus on those 5 major things that we talk about, you know, debt, China, energy, education, borders, those things that are really at the very basic survival of this nation. And then if we get those under control, we're going to be strong militarily. And, you know, it just goes from there. Our trade will be strong. Our foreign policy will be strong. But if we keep focused on these little minutia children fights that a lot of these politicians do, it doesn't move us anywhere.
Well, you mentioned about the message of the Democrats. Their strategy is not working right now, because their strategy in the past, in my opinion, has been to get these disparate groups, get them really pissed off, and bring up a common boogeyman to unify them.
Yeah,
and I'll give you a couple of quick examples. So you might wonder about, like, the black church is very conservative, and they're not really into abortion. They're not really into all this gay and transgender stuff. So you may wonder how they get them unified. So they piss off the black community as much. Everybody's a racist. Then they piss off the LGBT, you know, the Alphabet City people, and then they unify them behind a common boogeyman. And it used to be that the orange Cheeto Bandito, Mr. Trump, was the common boogeyman. But that's not working anymore, because they did so much damage during the Biden administration that they're struggling to find a new strategy, because that strategy before is not working.
Good point. That's exactly what happened. They saw the results of when they were in charge and what happened to this country. And then they're saying that Trump is tearing all these neighborhoods and communities apart with his immigration enforcement. Well, he wouldn't have had to do that had the Democrats not done what they did. And it's just garbage. American people are tired of it. They want somebody to lead this country and solve those major problems so that we can focus on a brighter future for our kids. And the Democrat Party is not doing that. And I know you're getting ready to go into the Jasmine Crockett. And I mean, this is just amazing, the things that she says. And it's funny how she's got the refined Jasmine Crockett on this interview. And she flips her chameleon self will flip to the other side when it's beneficial to her.
Well, she probably learned that from Hillary Clinton. You know, where Hillary Clinton talk, and she get in a black church and go, "I ain't no ways tired," you know, and all that. And I'm like,
Al Gore too. Al Gore did that too.
Yeah, how ignorant do you think people are that you can kowtow to them like that? I think people are waking up to that crap. But I do want to play 2 back-to-back videos here. One is Mr. Comer, the chair of the committee that had Joe Biden's doctor before. And I want to play you a brief snippet of his comments about what the good doctor said about whether or not he falsified records. Check this out, and then we'll come back and play Ms. Crockett's response.
That were asked. Were you ever told to lie about the president's health? He pleaded the Fifth Amendment. He would not answer that question. The second question, did you ever believe President Biden was unfit to execute his duties? Again, President Biden's White House position pleaded the Fifth Amendment. This is unprecedented, and I think that this adds more fuel to the fire, that there was a cover-up.
And what they did say in that video is the only question that the doctor would answer, not take the fifth on, was what his name was. But he was asked, did they falsify records? Was he ever asked to lie about the president's condition? And he took the Fifth Amendment every single time. And then, of course, Jasmine Crockett comes on to speak for the Democrats. And we'll play this just a bit longer. I would encourage people to watch the whole video. It's about 7 minutes long, but we're going to spare you that and watch just about a minute of it. Check this out. Jasmine Crockett in her own words.
Number two, as it relates to this rogue DOJ that goes out and charges even members of Congress randomly that are trying to honor their duty, I can tell you there at least was one person in the room that understands what an oath is, and that was the doctor. In addition to that, I don't understand why we keep looking backwards. The reality is that the country wasn't off the rails when Joe Biden was sitting in the White House. The country is off the rails right now. People have concerns about the current occupant in the White House and whether or not he is mentally fit to serve in this moment, in a moment in which he has started random terror wars, in a moment in which he decided to say that we were being invaded by Venezuelans, in a moment in which he has decided, as we are talking about health care, to get rid of the health care of approximately 17 million people. If there's anyone that I am concerned about their mental acuity, it is the current occupant, because unfortunately, we are going to be under his control for the next 3 years and some change. And right now, the American people are being harmed as a direct result of the decisions that he is making in this moment.
I understand your concerns about the Fifth Amendment and the legal right of the physician to do so.
There you have Jasmine Crockett. You know, Ted, she reminds me of a scene from that old comedy show, Airplane, where the woman that got two black guys and they're talking and they can't understand it, and the lady behind them, a white lady, says, "Well, I speak jive," and she translates for it. Because Jasmine Crockett, man, one time she's speaking jive and the next minute she's being articulate, like we talked about Hillary Clinton going back and forth. But there she basically says that you know, the fact that this guy is taking the fifth is no big deal and whatever. I mean, what are your thoughts on all this about the doctor? And I do agree with one thing, and you said it earlier, that we don't really need to focus so much on the backside of all this and move forward. But I do think the American people deserve to kind of know what happened.
Oh, absolutely. Going back to Crockett, that's why I call her the chameleon. You never know who's going to show up. You know, it's just like in this interview, they asked her, how well did you know, or before I get into that, the doctor, you know, there is a Hippocratic oath and there is HIPAA rules that he can't divulge anything. And I says, you know, I can understand why he wouldn't answer questions, but the questions they ask, you know, did anybody tell you to lie about his condition? He won't answer that. Did you see a cognitive decline? He won't answer that. And then I found out that he was involved in deals with Joe Biden's brother in the real estate deals and all this stuff. He was involved in those, so he benefited from that. It's just the sliminess of the Biden administration. And Jasmine Crockett was asked, well, did you ever see a decline in the president? And she goes, absolutely not. She goes, now, I wasn't around him much, so I didn't see him all the time. But then later in this interview, and that's why people need to watch this, to see how just slimy, I guess it is, because she goes from, oh, I didn't know him that well. Then at the end of it, she's like, I was his number one campaign surrogate because we talked all the time. And so I knew him really well. And so it's just so much political BS that the American people are tired of. And I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Yeah, well, the thing about her, and this is, I don't know if you've seen this, but in a recent poll, she is now the leading candidate. She hasn't declared that she's running, but she's the leading candidate for the Democratic nomination to be the next senator from the great state of Texas. That is how far this has gone. She is up in the polls ahead of, she would win according to the poll, and she would be the nominee of the Democratic Party in Texas right now.
Wow. How scary is that? Beto O'Rourke is running. Actually, he's doing his feelers. He's putting it out there. What do you think if I run again? You know, he's run twice to be the senator against Cruz. I served with him. He's a billionaire. His wife's family is a billionaire. And so that should disqualify him for running in the Democrat Party. But for her, who's been in Congress one term, if I'm correct, one term in Congress, to be their lead candidate, give me a break. That's like putting Mario Cuomo or Andrew Cuomo back up to run for election in New York. Is that the best you had? Is that the best Texas has to bring people together? Or do you want to continue this terrible slide of separating America? And if you do, elect Jasmine Crockett. But if you want to bring America together, Texans, you'd be better served, and America would be better served by getting somebody that loves this country.
Well, she recently, I'm not going to play this video, but she recently, like this past week, was talking, just to show you where her mindset is, Jasmine Crockett we're talking about. She said that about what happened in Texas with the floods, that she could understand what the people there were going through because she's going through the same type of trauma and trying to deal with President Trump. She literally compared the loss of those children and the loss of lives to her personal struggle dealing with President Trump. She said that. You can check it out on your own, but she said that this past week.
Well, as we know how polls are when they're done this far out in advance, they have no credence. So, I wouldn't get too worked up about this. It's like AOC. I mean, she's got a better chance being the senator of New York than Chuck Schumer does. But can you imagine an AOC senator and a Jasmine Crockett senator with 2 years of experience in the House? No. If that happens, it just shows you where America is and how divided it is and how confused they are of what America stands for.
Well, the only good news about AOC and Jasmine Crockett is if AOC is right, we'll be dead in a couple more years anyway because the world will end, right?
I think we got
12 years. We got to be close to that, right?
Yeah, she's been there 8 to 10 years now. So, yeah, we got to be close to that.
So if she actually were to run and win the presidency, then we'd be dead before her second term ended, for sure.
Let's see, I was 8 years, and I got out. I've been out 4 going on 5 years. So that's 13 years. And she came in at Congress or 2 after me. And we've only got 2 or 3 years left, buddy.
That's the best news coming out of the Democratic Party. I want to kind of switch gears in the couple minutes we have left, Ted.
John, there's one more.
Go ahead.
She said she would not want to have children and bring them up in this world because it was so toxic. So that's another good thing, so we're going to eliminate that gene pool.
There you go. There you go. Well, talking about some kind of bad genes here, I want to kind of switch gears in the couple minutes we got left, Ted, because there is something that is boiling up on the right, so to speak, if you want to divide the right and left. There are people within the MAGA movement that are pretty upset right now. A lot of stuff online about Pam Bondi and Donald Trump and the Epstein files and the Epstein list, because we were pretty much led to believe that there was a list and that they were going to disclose all of this. I don't know exactly what to feel about that, but I can tell you there are legitimate concerns and people upset that were strong supporters of Donald Trump. What do you think about that, Ted?
No, I think you're right. I think, if you go back to when he got busted, there was this list. There was Ghislaine Maxwell, his co-conspirator and confidant and concubine. She said there is a list. I think that's why she's still alive, is there's a list that she has control of that's hidden. And we've heard about this, and they were going to release the list. Pam Bondi even said that, but then it was, And then you got to wonder, Elon Musk came out and said Trump was on the list. That's why they didn't release it. So it conjures up a conspiracy. All of a sudden they're going to release all this information, and it was like an moment, and all of a sudden it's suppressed. So it does. It brings up doubt. And when you have doubt, you start getting dissension in the ranks. And this is something, again, I think they need to come out, and if he was on the list, you're on the list. Deal with it. The American people want to know that, because we're at a high point of Americans, people not trusting our government.
Yeah, absolutely. And I trust the American people. So I'm all for releasing all these different files and that list, because why should you have that? I mean, it's one thing to have like nuclear secrets and stuff like that, but if you got secrets on people, my speculation, Ted, is that the only reason to keep said list beyond something like, is Donald Trump actually on it? I'm not saying he is to hold power over other people, to use it as a hammer to keep them under control, all of which is wrong. So I would say they need to release whatever it is and just let the chips fall where they may. I mean, that's the way I see it.
Oh, it's easier to just tell the truth than to hide 100 lies. You know, you can try to protect your lies because you can't remember them. And so just let it be out there and let the American people decide. You know, if it happened, deal with it. You know, you can't change it. So I'm with you on that. And I think the American people are. They want to know, you know, are you upfront about what you're telling us? You know, you're telling us you're a straight shooter. If you're a straight shooter, shoot straight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please like what we're doing, share what we're doing far and wide, spread the word for us, and I hope you've enjoyed our political